Hi Matt, thanks for joining me for a quick chat about Q4 planning. You're our head of media, paid media at 3Pipe, and so I hope you've got bags full of insight you can share with us over the next sort of 8 or 9 minutes. Something that I've been seeing a lot of at the moment is a lot of discussion around the cost of CPMs, specifically actually on the Meta platform, and why brands need to get involved now, come back to Meta with some of the challenges Meta's had over the last year or so. Very quickly, what is a CPM for people that don't know?
So CPM stands for cost per mil. In other words, it is the cost per 1,000 views for an ad.
Okay. And so I presume, therefore, for people that don't know, the cost of, or the CPM cost does fluctuate a lot day in, day out, or month in, or year on year, etc. But at the moment, it seems to be that CPMs are coming down, well, especially on the Meta platform right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've seen through this year, and we will probably see moving into the start of Q4 at least, that CPMs will become lower. The main reason being there's a lot of more caution given the economic uncertainty and the environment right now, which means that some advertisers are reducing the amount of budget towards, particularly in specific, more of their awareness driving activity.
And obviously, when people buy CPM, it tends to be more for brand awareness, right? It's that kind of metric they're thinking about when they're purchasing or looking at pricing of CPMs. Why is that so important right now before we go into peak season? I think I'm answering my question by asking it, but from your perspective, why is a good, affordable CPM really good news right now?
So it's great news in the sense that right now is a good opportunity to start building more brand awareness, especially coming into the peak season. There's lots of brands, especially those in e-commerce, will want to take advantage. At the same time, it's a good idea to try and build that awareness before you get to the actual peak moment. So before the likes of Black Friday, before Christmas, where a lot of brands will essentially be driving most of their revenue, by actually investing in awareness now while the figures for CPM, especially when you're building for awareness, are lower than usual, you're actually making yourself considerable saving for that moment as well. And one thing as well to also add to that, we are seeing there is a lot of uncertainty, as I mentioned before, with the economy. What we actually have seen previously, there's a lot of studies that back this up, and a lot of marketing knowledge that has been shared that indicates that those are actually still invest for awareness during these periods of uncertainty are those sorts of brands which will actually pull through and succeed afterwards.
Yeah. And is it purely down to the economy as to, I guess, less competition driving up the cost of CPMs, or are there other factors that are at play? Because, you know, there's been a lot of change on the Meta platform specifically, which also might be a reason why CPMs have changed in price or become less expensive.
Yeah, absolutely. There's quite a number of factors, the economy being one very obvious and clear one to point to, but there are factors as well, given the changes in how marketers perceive the likes of Meta and other platforms. There have been a lot of changes with privacy and how people are a lot more focused now on factors such as GDPR. There's also now a lot more challenges to measure some elements when it comes to Meta, especially if you're doing it without the support of a strong marketing agency. And as a result of all these different combined factors, these are all reasons why you're starting to see CPM lower. I think I will add as well, we also have seen the introduction of new platforms. We have TikTok, which has become a rising star, should we say, when it comes to advertisers and their spends towards more awareness driving activity and more influencer-led activity. And then you also have the introduction of potential new platforms, such as the on the horizon Threads.
Yeah, and of course, we're not just a Meta agency, so we're looking at other platforms and comparing the CPMs on Meta with other platforms. So are you seeing a similar pattern of behavior across Pinterest, across TikTok, across even retail media, right? In terms of marketplace or advertising through Tesco's, for example, like people can do now. Is it a similar case where CPMs are coming down in this quarter across all platforms?
Yes, on average, we have seen decreases. Now, I will caveat that it is very vertical dependent. So we're mentioning the likes of, for example, marketplaces. Yes, you may, depending on the exact area or product that you're trying to market. But on average, yes, we have seen a decrease in CPMs across the board as marketers move their budgets around, and some have reduction in budgets.
Okay, because I always felt that perhaps the lower the CPM, the lower the quality to some extent. Is that fair? That actually with the higher CPM, you're talking a much more targeted media buy. Or is that just too simplistic?
It is true in what you're saying. Again, this is why it comes down a lot to your intention with your vertical and how you actually then market your own brand. And what you will typically see is the more targeted you go, the higher your CPM cost will be, especially if it's a competitive market that you're in. Whereas if you're going for more of a broader approach, hence you're building more awareness, you will see lower CPMs on average right now. So again, it depends a lot on what your strategy ultimately is. And hence why I would recommend, if you're focusing more on building more awareness and taking advantage of this moment in time, you're likely going to see more cost-effective CPMs. And if you're doing more targeted performance-based marketing.
And I guess just more taking a step back, this is our key planning time of the year for a lot of our retail brands going into peak season. How does that process work with 3Pipe at the moment in terms of how we go about doing that?
So right now with 3Pipe in particular, but also with a lot of brands, it's already starting to come into fruition in terms of with a lot of our clients, our budget's already planned, and it's now coming down to how do we plan for a successful end of the year for Q4, especially for e-commerce brands. So usually at this stage, with a lot of our clients we work with, we will look towards what does the strategy look like, building up through the remainder of autumn and going into winter. And then how do we make sure that we are prepared as well as possible, using insights from our various partners we use, from the various platforms we use, to make sure that we're targeting the right people and making the best of the different strategies we have with our clients.
Well, thanks, Matthew. I think we're going to catch up again in a few weeks' time, because there's lots of news and lots of change coming through as we come into Q3 and start approaching Q4, which is only 10 weeks or so away now, which is crazy to think about that. But thanks for your time, and we'll catch up soon.
All right. Thank you very much, Jim.